Okay, Rabbi say, welcome back to our Motzi Shabbos marathon, as we're going at a very good clip here so far, and we are holding now by Amar Rav Yehuda.
Can I ask?
We are holding now by Amar Rav Yehuda. No, not now. We are holding by Amar Rav Yehuda. 9 lines from the top. 9 lines from the top of Kuf Ches Amud Aleph. Amar Rav Yehuda. Hakol le'igle gapa. Everybody is responsible to pay for the city gates. Va'afilu miyasmei. Even orphans have to pay for the city gates because they're also needed for. They also need the security. Avo rabbanan loy. But not the rabbis. Now, why not the rabbis? My timer. Because Rabbanon lo tzricha netirusa. Because the rabbis don't need the protection because their Torah protects them. As Rashi says, Torasai misham rasai. The Torah protects them. What we say in the Siyam of Masechta, when you lay down, the Torah will guard you. Lekarya de pasya, for digging wells, for reservoir work, va'afilu mirabanan, you need to collect even from the rabbis, but that's only if there's a tax. V'loy amrinala deloy nafka mi'echlusa, but that's only if they don't go out and dig. Aval echlusa loy, but if they go out and do manual labor, that we don't ask the rabbis to participate in. The rabbanan lamdei meipik b'echlusa, they don't go out in a assembly line to do manual labor. Rabbi Yehuda, lekarya dinara. Rabbi Yehuda tells us that if the water flows and let's say the river got stopped up. So if the river got stopped up, tatoi misaye iloi. So if the river got stopped up, the people down below have to help a clogging above, because the clogging above affects them, because the water won't get down to them. But if lower down, once it passed the people up the river, if lower down it gets clogged, the people on top don't have to participate. V'chilufa b'maya demitra, and the opposite is true with the draining of water that's draining from below. That you don't want the water to overflow and cause mud on the roads. So if there's a blockage on the bottom, then the people on top have to participate, because the blockage on the bottom will cause it to back up on top. If there is a blockage on top, however, the people below don't have to participate, because if there's a blockage on top, it doesn't affect them. It just flows out and causes mud on top. Tani Namihachi, we learned likewise. Chamesh ginois hamistapkais mayin memayin echad. 5 gardens that benefit from water from one well, v'niskalkel hamayin, and the well gets damaged. Kulan misaknais imhel yaina. They all have to help with the one on top, because the one on top, if it gets stuck on top, it's not coming down below. Nimtzes atachtoina misakenes im kulam. The one below the lowest garden has to fix with all those above it, because if any blockage happens above it, it's not getting the water. And if there's a blockage by it, only it has to do it. The other ones already got their water. But if it's a blockage by it, then the one on the bottom alone has to fix it. V'chein chamesh katzeres, 5 courtyards. Sheyemekalches mayim lebiv echad. Their wastewaters went into a drain pipe. V'niskalkel habiv, and the drain pipe got damaged. So kulon misaknois, all of them have to help imatachtaina, because if on the bottom it's blocked up, it's going to back up for everybody. Nimtzas ha'alyoina misaknos im kulon. The upper ones have to work for itself, because if it gets blocked by itself, the waist won't come down. And if it's only blocked on top, so the rest of them are using the drain pipe good, and the one on top has to help itself. Amar Shmuel, Hayman da'arzik beraksa dinara. If somebody, in those days, when we were under Persian control, if there's a land available, if you pay the Persian the land tax, you could take the land. So here, a person who takes possession of land right on the bank of the river. Now really, that area should be for loading and unloading the boats and pulling the barges. So chatziva have, that's very impudent, because you should leave that for the people that have to unload and load the boats. But siluke loy mesakinale, because he's doing dina de malchusa, he paid the land tax, so you can't stop him. However, va'idna, now that if you read the fine print of the Persians, the kakasvei parsai, that the Persians say that the people that have land further down, next to the beach, the Persians write, Koniloch, you acquire the land, ad meloit saver sus amaya, and your land extends all the way till inside the river, till the neck of the horse. So the people already that have fields nearby already owe this area. So then somebody cannot come and be marzik the area. Then saluke nami misalkinon, and then you could actually remove him. Now, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Hayman. Now you know who Hayman is. Not somebody by the name of Haman. Hayman is Marshall, right? So Marshall looks very rested and ready to go.
Back.
Yeah, about time. Mark was getting a beating.
Yeah, he showed me his black and blue mark.
Yeah, are you kidding? I think he's not here. He's still, recuperating. Like
I'll rub a little chalt into it. It makes it go away.
Yeah. So Amr Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, I don't know. He called me Erev Shabbos. I called him back. He didn't answer. I called him tonight. He also didn't answer. I hope everything's all right. Shout out to him. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvaro. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Hayman de'arzik beinei ochei u'beinei shutfei. There's a land between two brothers or between two partners. So really that land should be available for the brothers to buy it or the partners to buy it. But Marshall goes and pays the land tax and possesses it. Chatzifa hava. So of course it's very chutzpahdik of him. But we can't remove him from there. Rav Nachman says, no, this is such peasant-like behavior that misalkina nami, we could remove him. However, v'imishim dina de bar metzra, but if just because of the reason of bar metzra that you're supposed to let the closer neighbor do it first, for that loy misalkina lay. That he held because of the reason of bar metzra, we would not evict him. Now, no. Afilu mishum dina de bar metzra, The law is that before you buy a property, you have to allow the neighbors to get first crack on it, and therefore misal kinanle, because mishum shenemar v'asisa yasher atay bein Hashem. You should do that which is good and upright in the eyes of Hashem, and it's better you buy land somewhere else and leave it to people that have land close by. Now, Imlach Bey, let's say Marshall goes and asks the neighbor, can I buy it? And Amalei, and the neighbor says, yeah, Ezel Izvin. Imlach Bey, if Marshall asks him, Amalei, Ezel Izvin, could I go and buy it? The Amalei, and the person that's, Eddie, who has property nearby, says, Marshall Zilzvin, go and buy it. Half the time I'm running all over the globe anyway, so go and buy it. So, does he have to make a kinyan suder to make that permission binding or not? Ravina Amaloi tzarech lemiknebei. He doesn't have to make a kinyan suder. Nadoi imrei tzarech lemiknebei. He has to make a kinyan suder. V'hilchas on the law is before Marshall buys it. Tzarech lemiknebei. Now, hashta the amrit tzarech lemiknebei. Now that we say that he needs to make a kinyan suder, if he doesn't make a kinyan suder, when he buys it, it's as if he bought it for Eddie. Because Zachan Adam Shalai B'fanav. You could merit a person not with his approval, not with his knowledge. So since it's a merit for Eddie to get it, so if Eddie says, yeah, I want it, so when he bought it, it's as if Eddie already has it. And therefore, a yakar, if it goes up in value, or vizul, or it goes down in value, b'reshusei zavin. He bought it, b'reshusei, in Eddie's possession. Zavin b'meya. If, let's say, Marshall bought the field for 100, v'shavi masan, and it's worth 200, chazina, then we have to see, if the owner was giving a discount to everybody, so then Yovle Meya, Eddie gives 100 to Marshall, V'shakale, and he takes it. V'iloi, if not, if he only gave it as 100 because he likes Marshall did him a favor in the car shop. If now Eddie wants it, Eddie has to give Marshall 200. Yovle Masin, he would have to give Marshall 200, V'shakale, and take it from Marshall. Zavin b'masin, if Marshall paid 200, V'shavya Meya, and it's only worth 100. So, Saver Mina, the Gemara figures that Eddie could say, you're my agent only to make things good, not to mess things up. What are you paying 200? I might think, I only sent you to make things good for me, and therefore, he shouldn't have to give Marshall 200 because he overpaid. However, Amalei Markashisha Bereder of Chisda of Ashi, Hachi Amar Nardoi Mishum Rav Nachman, that there's no overcharging by Karkais. So if Eddie wants it, he has to give Marshall the 200 that he paid through the nose. Now, let's say that what happened over here is that Eddie has property on the two sides of this field, but it's a group of fields. So Eddie has there's fields 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Eddie owns fields 1 and 5. 2, 3, and 4, AB has for sale. So Marshall, who is a conniving, clever, sly, and other such things like skullduggery and the like.
Oh, don't stop there. There's plenty more.
He buys field number 3. Now, field number 3 is not near Eddie, right? Because Eddie has 1 and 5, and he buys field number 3. So Zavan le Griva Da'ara, he bought a saw of land, b'mitzei nichsei, in the middle. Chazinon, idiocy, if it was superior than 2 and 4, or izuburiacy, or it was inferior and cheap, then zvine, then the sale is good. But if it's the same quality, v'iloi, if not, iurume kamarin, he's just acting deviously in order that now he'll have field 3, and then he'll be able to buy 2 and 4 because now he's near it also. This is, as I said, Marshall at his best. Matana lespa mishum dina Bava Metzia. If AB wants to give a present to Marshall, then there's no claim of Bava Metzia. Bava Metzia is only by a sale. If he wants to give it as a present, he can give it a present to whoever he wants. So matana lespa mishum dina Bava Metzia. However, Amar Ameimer says, ikasav le achrayis. If when AB gave the matana to Marshall, he gave him a security clause that Marshall, if somebody takes it away, I'll guarantee it. That smells. That means really Marshall is giving him money under the table, because people that give presents don't give security clauses. Isbei mishum din Bava Metzia. Now, macher kol nechasav leechad. If let's say AB sells all of his fields to Marshall, and he sells one of the fields that were next to Eddie, lesba mishum dina Bava Metzia. There's no claim of Bava Metzia. The reason is because AB is afraid that maybe Marshall will say that if he can't buy everything, he's not going to buy nothing. And AB doesn't want to lose such a lucrative deal, so then he doesn't have to worry about Eddie. Now, let's say Marshall was the original owner of this property. It's next to Eddie, but Marshall was the original owner of this property. If you sell it to the original owner, less b'mishum dina Bava Metzia. Zovan me'akim. Let's say that Marshall buys the land next to Eddie from a guy. So the din is that or the Zovan le'akim, or if he sold it to a guy, let's say Marshall sells the property next to Eddie to a guy, less b'mishum dina Bava Metzia. In either case, there's no Bava Metzia rights. So the Gemara explains, Zovan me'akim, if Marshall buys it from a guy, he tells Eddie, look, I did you a great favor. I got a guy away from you. I chased a lion away from your border. Zovan la'akim, he sold it to a guy. A guy doesn't have the responsibility of a sisa yashav atayv. Akim vadi la'bava sisa yashav atayv. However, since Marshall put a guy next to Eddie, Eddie could go and get Marshall excommunicated, stand in line. Eddie could go and get Marshall excommunicated until Marshall accepts the responsibility of any damage that comes from the guy. And that's what the Gemara says, Shamute vadim shamtinolei. We definitely put marshal in excommunication ad mekabel alei until he accepts upon himself kol unsei de asile machmase. Any harm that Eddie gets from this guy that Marshall caused to be next to his property. Now, mashkanta. Let's say that Abi owed money to Marshall, and he gave the land next to Eddie to Marshall as collateral. So the Gemara says, "Man kshkanta lesba mishum dina de bar metzia." If it's collateral, there's no din of a bar metzia. Why? The Amr of Ashi Amruli Sobe de Mase Mechasya. It was told to me by the elders of Mase Mechasya. My mashkanta. What does it mean? Collateral. The shchuna gabe. It's as if he lives next to Abi. Since Abi owes him the money, it's as if he lives next to Abi. He is the closest person to this field. My nafkamina ladina de bar metzia. Now here's an interesting thing. If let's say, here we're going to talk about situations where Abi needs the money quickly. Limka barachak v'ligo b'karav. He wants to sell this land next to Eddie, which is far from his house, because he has an opportunity to buy land right near his house. That he doesn't have to commute. Or bara, he could sell this poor land, v'ligo b'yafa, because he has a great opportunity to buy quality land. So since where he needs the money in a haste, less ba mishum dina de bar metzia. Similarly, l'karga l'mezayne l'kvura, if the seller needs money for the skull tax to provide food for his wife and daughter, or l'kvura for burial, less ba mishum dina bar metzia. He needs the money quickly, and he could sell it to Marshall even on Abi's border. Dimrei nardai, because they said in narda, l'karga l'mezayne l'kvura, for skull tax, for food, or for burial. Mizavnina, we sell the property of orphans even below achrasta, even without a public auction. Normally, in order to guarantee good sale for orphans, we make a public auction on that property. But if it's needed for the skull tax, for food, or for burial, then we sell it without a auction. Leisha uliyasme ulishutafe. As we bring in Stephen Holtzman now, even though we're moving at a very good clip over here, we're still under an hour. It's still 10 minutes to midnight. So I want to say that 27 Zoomers strong at 10 minutes to midnight. Bravo to all of you. Thank you very much for joining me and being part of this wonderful Olam. Now, the Gemara tells us another case of that we're not makbid on bar metzia, and that is if Abi sells to a woman. Now, a woman has a hard time buying real estate, so therefore we make her an exception, or liyasme, or orphans, or ulishitafe, or to one of his partners, les ba mishum dina de bar metzia. There's no law of bar metzia. Now, here we want to know if Abi has a choice who to sell it to. Shkeinei ha'ir, he has a choice to sell it to a neighbor of his in the city, somebody that lives next to him, or shkeinei sada, or somebody that has a field next to him, not this field, but a field next to him in one of his other properties. So shkeinei ha'ir kaidman. The people that live near Abi, they come first. Shchenim are very important. Shachen v'talmid chacham, you have a choice to sell it to a neighbor or a talmid chacham kaidem. Karav a Talmid Chacham, even a relative or a Talmid Chacham kain. What about a neighbor or a relative? Ibaylo shachein v'karav mai. What about a neighbor or a relative? Tashma toiv shachein karav. A close neighbor is better me'ach rachik than a distant brother. In other words, a neighbor is a very valuable asset. He sees him all the time. He's there in case he needs him. So he should try to curry the favor of his neighbor. Now, Abi, as Marshall has come back with the cash, he's finally got the cash with him.
You take Zelle, right?
Zelle, PayPal, carrier pigeon, whatever you want. The so now, and we take euros also. The marks, pounds, shkolim. Now, he's always eating this guy. Hearty appetite. Dinner. 10 to 12, Matzah Shabbos, he's having a Malava Malka. Sudas David Malka Meshicha. So anyway, if it's property next to Eddie wants the property, and Marshall wants the property. So Hani Zuze Tove. Marshall wants to pay with good coins. Coins that are more liquid in more places. V'ani Zuze Tkule. But Eddie wants to pay with heavier coins. Heavier coins, some places are worth more. Less Bamishim Dina de Bava Metzia, because he could choose to go with either one of those preferences. Hani Tzaire v'Hani Share. Eddie's money is bound, and Marshall's money is open. The bound money is a big job to take it apart and to count it, so he'd rather take Marshall's money that's open. Less Bamishim Dina de Bava Metzia. Eddie can't claim to have priority. Omar Ezel ve'etrich ve'aisi zuze. If Eddie tells Marshall, Eddie tells Abi, don't sell to Marshall, I'm going to go in trouble and bring the money. Abi could say, I don't want to wait. I'm going to go in trouble. That means he has to put together the money. He doesn't have to wait for him. Omar Ezel Aisi zuze. If he says, I'm going to go bring money, then if Eddie is a person of means, that we could trust that he's going to go and get it, he's going to go to Chase and withdraw it, not late. Then Abi has to wait for him. But if he's not a man of means, then he doesn't have to wait for him. Now, if the land belongs to Marshall, and Eddie has a house on it. Now, the house that Eddie has on it has a lease, So, Morei Ara Me'akev Amari Bate. The owner of the land could stop Eddie from selling the house to someone else. Because he could say, if you're selling it, sell it to me, it's my land. But Morei Bate, the owner of the house, Eddie, which is only temporary, Loi Ma'akev Amari Dara. He can't stop Abi from selling his land to someone else. The same thing is true. Ari dechad v'diklei dechad. If Abi has the land and Eddie has a palm tree on it, Mori da'ara matzi ma'akav amori diklei. Abi could insist that if Eddie is selling the palm tree, he should sell it to him. But Mori diklei, but Eddie who owns the palm tree, loy matzi ma'akav amori da'ara, he can't insist that Abi should sell him the land. Now, if let's say let's say that Abi wants to sell the land next to Eddie, and Marshall is ready to build a house on it, and Eddie only wants to use it for farmland. Ara labate va'ara lazara, if Marshall wants to build a house and do Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, and Eddie only wants to plant it, Yishuv Adif, populating it is more superior, v'les ba mishum dina de bar mitzvah, and there's no law of dina de bar mitzvah. Final Gemara of the evening. If, let's say, there's a afsik meshunisa, the land that's available, there's a wall of rock between Eddie's land and the land that's available, or richba de dikla, or a row of palm trees, chazina. We look, im yochel lahachnis ba'afilu telem echad, if Eddie could fit through the wall or the palm trees even one furrow, then ispa mishum dina bar metzia, then he could claim that he has the closest neighbor rights. But if it's a complete rock wall and a complete row of palm trees, then lespa mishum dina bar metzia, he can claim first rights over Marshall, and Marshall could buy it. Okay, Rabbi said this was a great learning tonight.